Hey, Big Blue Banter listener. Would you like an extra $500? That's a lot of cash. Go to bluewirepods.com/survey and complete the Blue Wire audience survey about you and your podcast listening habits for a chance to win a $500 gift card. This survey will help create a better advertising experience for audiences and, in turn, help this show. That's bluewirepods.com/survey, where all you have to do is answer some simple questions for a chance to win $500. Make sure to read the full terms and disclaimer, plus complete the survey for a chance to win. bluewirepods.com/survey. The link is also in the show notes of this episode.
Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always my co-host Nick Filato, and we are almost here. We're almost at week 1 of the NFL season. I know some of you have asked, are we going to preview the Vikings game? We will. That'll come game day week, though. That's Wednesday or Thursday of game day week. Well, I'm looking right now into getting a guest for that show. Those are always fun at the beginning of the year. We're also going to have some shows coming up, bowl predictions, our record predictions, things looking forward to the season. But today's show is about our reaction to the Giants' initial 53-man roster. So, Nick, and there's only one thing I'm going to add in here. I don't know if those have seen it, but Tyler Dunne wrote a deep article reporting on Joe Schoen and his general manager tenure. And there are some wild quotes in that article, so we'll get to one of those a little bit later. That's a little tease for now. But as we go through this, we're seeing live tweets from Dan Duggan, who is at Giants practice and can give us updates on if things change within the Giants' initial 53-man roster. Bryce Ford-Wheaton has changed his number to 88. That's the first thing I see, which gives up 6. But again, I think Jamie Gillen has number 6. So I think Malik Neighbors wants 6, Nick, but I don't know if he's going to get it. I wanted 88 from Malik Neighbors, so I'm a little disappointed by that. But I am excited for Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who made the roster. What was your initial reaction to the reveal of the 53-man roster?
I didn't have too many crazy takeaways. We weren't spot on, which sucks. There were some players who ended up getting released or going through waivers, however you want to really say it. No Giants were claimed at all, and the Giants claimed one player, and that was Anthony Johnson Jr., a safety from Green Bay, 2023 7th-round draft pick out of Iowa State. Soon I'll be having a breakdown, hit the channel on him. I've watched a couple of his games. I just got to put it all together now. And he is a hard-hitting guy with range and fluidity. Just terrible missed tackle percentage, like a 28% missed tackle rate. A lot of his missed tackles were coming from depth. So that's, I believe, valuable information. But he's very wild into the tackle point because he's just constantly trying to use the hit stick and doesn't really wrap up and just tries to use his force and his strength instead of proper technique when it comes to tackling. But I still think he is a player with eyes, range, fluidity, can play single high, and will be a better fourth option than what the Giants had on this roster behind Dane Belton, Jason Pinnock, and Tyler Nubin. I don't exactly know what's going on with Gervarius Owens right now. He wasn't seen at practice, according to Dan Duggan, and I know the Giants have to make room for Anthony Johnson Jr., so maybe by the time you guys are listening to this, we'll understand who was released or put on IR or what exactly happened, but Gervarius Owens was not seen at practice. We know he was dealing with a knee issue from about mid-August.
Yeah, that was my initial read on this signing, that it was insurance for Gervarius Owens. Look, these injuries, we don't know the extent of them, but he could be placed on IR. With the new NFL rules, there's advantages to that. I'm talking about Gervarius Owens. And somebody like Johnson could just take that roster spot, that back-end safety spot. And we already know in the Shane Bowen defense, they're going to rely on more safeties than not. So, or more safeties than they have in the past, I should say. So you need depth, and that's going to be a back-end roster depth guy, Anthony Johnson. It's somebody obviously liked from the 2023 scouting process to an extent, of course.
Yeah, to an extent. So 10 offensive linemen, though. Jakob Johnson didn't make the initial 53. He got stashed on the practice squad, which makes a ton of sense. No one was going to go out and sign this guy who the Giants just plucked off of the streets a la Justin Pugh fashion, and now he's on the practice squad and will likely be elevated early if the Giants want to employ his skill set as a fullback. But 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, you have 3 tight ends. It was Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy, Eric Gray, Daniel Bellinger, Theo Johnson, Chris Manhertz. And you have Jakob Johnson and Turbo Miller both on the practice squad. so far. And they're announcing as we record this, other people who are, or other players who are signing to the Giants practice squad, but no surprise there when it comes to Dante Miller and Jakob Johnson landing on the practice squad if they did not get claimed, which I didn't think they would, especially with Turbo's injury. If Turbo didn't get injured, though, I am wondering if he would have found his way onto this roster and this final 53, man. And Dan Duggan just tweeted the unofficial practice squad. There's 2 spots left, and we'll see exactly what happens. It's running back Dante Miller, wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins, wide receiver Miles Boykin, Jakob Johnson, tight end Lawrence Cager, offensive lineman Joshua Miles, Marcellus Johnson, and Jimmy Morrissey, defensive lineman Casey Rogers, no surprise there, outside linebacker Timon Fox, linebacker Ty Summers, who is new, a 2019 7th-round draft pick who was recently with the Detroit Lions, so he was in the building during the joint practices. I guess the Giants might have liked what they saw. Inside linebacker KJ Cloyd, we are aware of that. He definitely deserves a spot after that final preseason game. Defensive back Alex Johnson, safety Raheem Lane, and then the kicker Jude Mikatamni, I believe is how you say it. I probably screwed that up because I have hardly any Irish blood in me. But he also is excused because he is an international player, so that doesn't count towards the total amount. That's an excused addition. And guy has a leg, man. I was watching him in practice, and before the game, he was kicking like 60 like it was nothing, dude. Guy has a monster leg. So that is the Giants' unofficial practice squad, according to Dan Duggan. He has boots on the deck right now at practice, taking account on who's there. Some surprises, man. Like we thought Miles Boykin was going to make the team because he was on like every first team special teams unit throughout training camp. Doesn't end up making the team. Maybe the Giants just felt comfortable enough, like no one's going to claim him. We'll just slide him onto the practice squad when we want to keep Bryce Ford-Wheaton because there might be a little bit more meat on the bone when it comes to his development as a wide receiver, because we know he had tantalizing skill set at West Virginia, tore his ACL last year, and he ended up making the final roster, which neither of us had.
Yeah, we didn't have that. There were some misses, and when Boykin doesn't make the final roster, somebody we thought would be special teams first, it is interesting because they also kind of doubled down and kept 3 quarterbacks on the roster, despite not going with that special teams player, which really puts more of an onus on the players who are on the roster to make a special teams impact. Let's start with the quarterback position. I think it's clear by the Giants' decision to keep Tommy DeVito over an extra special teams helper or somebody they can develop at a different position is that they believe this guy is a real developmental prospect for them long term as a quarterback too. I would assume. I don't think they have any delusions of grandeur of him as a quarterback one, but this does signify to me they believe in him as their quarterback too long term, and that could be short term as well. If things don't work out for Daniel Jones this year, the Giants will release him and get back all that salary cap. And Drew Lock was a 1-year deal. So that would leave them with just Tommy DeVito on the roster at quarterback, and obviously they would look to get more players. What are your thoughts on the decision to keep DeVito and more so like their long-term vision for him?
Yeah, it's insurance. I mean, we talked about it on the last episode that both of these quarterbacks ahead of him, well, now with Drew Lock with the hip injury, have recent injuries that they're recovering from, and Tommy DeVito knows the system. Tommy DeVito had success last year in the system, winning 3 games for Brian Daboll, and there really aren't a lot of options just chilling on the street at the moment. So from that standpoint, with Drew Lock struggling in training camp and dealing with his hip injury, I think it was just a prudent move to keep him on the roster.
I would agree. I think it's more of a short-term vision than a long-term vision right now. They need insurance for this year, given their situation at QB 1 and 2. DeVito's proven he can at least play in football games. I don't know if that would carry over with teams having tape on him, but I guess we'll find out at some point, or we may never find out. But, he's on the roster. He's taking up one of those spots. Jakob Johnson was a player we thought would make the roster. Carmen Brasil in the past has talked about how important a fullback is to his offense. But remember, the Giants have experimented with and used Daniel Bellinger as a fullback in preseason and throughout training camp. So ultimately, it may just be a situation where they're like, look, Bellinger can fill this role when we need him to.
And Gunnar Olszewski was back at practice too. So from the wide receiver standpoint, he ends up making that 6 wide receiver spot, but he's on the roster as a kick returner, punt returner. Isaiah McKenzie was put on the season-ending IR. So that was another player where we were like, dude, there's a lot of conjecture. We don't know how serious some of these injuries are. We know he's dealing with some sort of lower body injury. Now he's back out there fielding punts and looks like he'll be ready for week 1. So that's interesting enough.
Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins, old-time fan favorite, at least for us during the 2022 season. Really good tape, surprisingly, in 2022. That's just kind of been brushed under the rug. Now added to the Giants practice squad. I don't think anyone's going to claim him, but I'm not positive on that front. What are your thoughts on the decision to kind of move him from the roster to the practice squad?
I thought if there was anybody that would be claimed, it would be Isaiah Hodgins.
Same.
because Lawrence Cager is dealing with the injury that he's dealing with. And Isaiah Hodgins, I think, is a smart wide receiver, like tailor-made for what Brian Daboll wants to do. I think he has familiarity with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills right now, they don't exactly have a ton of talent at the wide receiver position. So I thought maybe a team like that, maybe even a team like the Dallas Cowboys, right? Mm-hmm. Like a team like that could be like, hey, this player is a smart player, a physical player, somebody who is very good at blocking, can come in and compete for a roster spot with us. But to guarantee him a 50-man roster spot right now, that's a lot. I think an injury has to happen, and he's not the most explosive player. So all of those factors are working against him. But I'm happy that him and Turbo Miller and players like that are on our practice squad, because I do believe in their skill set in this offense. And I think they each have a specific role that can be leveraged effectively by Brian Daboll. Hodgins as a pinpole blocker on the outside when condensed formations. Dante Miller just as an explosive threat in the screen game or in the run game too. So there are players on this practice squad that I look at and I'm glad they are there. And I think the Giants have had worse practice squads in recent memory than the current players that they have. And I say that while also acknowledging none of these guys were claimed. When was the last time the Giants actually had someone claimed though?
It's been a while. I can't.
I'm trying to think. I honestly, I'm drawing a blank right now on when the last time the Giants had somebody claimed.
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank too. That's not a good sign though.
Yeah,
we can't even remember.
Exactly. People in the comments are going to be like, "Use this guy, you dumbass." Man.
Yeah, and that's how it go. That's how it always goes. I think Hodgins even has more to offer as well. He's really good when he was matched up in those one-on-one situations with the release packages off the line of scrimmage and his footwork. We saw it in the Colts game toward the end of 2022 and in the Vikings games. But look, it's a numbers game, and you add Malik Neighbors and you added Hyatt to the roster in recent seasons. Those were going to push people off the roster. Those are talented players that have a big role coming for them as early as this year if the passing game can ignite itself. So, I get that. I understand the Giants' perspective on it. I understand their perspective on Jakob Johnson as well, not making the roster with Bellinger, obviously able to play that role as well. Offensive line-wise, it seems like the Giants did not decide to try to get cute and sneak Jake Kubis through the waiver wire, through the practice squad, I should say. And that's something that was interesting to me because I knew they liked him, but I wasn't positive that they would think that other teams might claim him. But this may be the one area where they're like, you know what? Teams pour through the offensive line tape during the preseason because, look, a lot of receivers can play football. Honestly, if you look across the league, there's going to be guys getting cut who can play. Tim Patrick, like there are players who get cut who can play. Running backs as well. But offensive line, everybody's desperate for help on that across the board. And there's injuries that are going to come. And so they're probably pouring through offensive line tape, and they probably saw Kubis's tape, the Giants, and they said, we can't afford to risk losing this guy.
I 100% agree, and I'm so happy that they didn't try to get cute there because I would have been pissed, Dan, and I know you would have been too, if we looked and Austin Schlottman made the team, which he did, but then Jake Kubis ends up getting claimed by another player. And you know what? I get that there is a little bit of nuance here because Austin Schlottman is a true center, and you want a true center to back up JMS so Greg Van Roten can just focus on the guard spot. But I wouldn't want to possibly lose out on a developmental player with upside in Jake Kubis just to keep a player like Austin Schlottman, who's basically just an insurance policy for JMS on the roster. So I'm glad that they kept Jake Kubis and they kept Austin Schlottman too. I get it. You want that insurance policy there. Now, hopefully Van Roten can just focus on the right guard spot and we can have some damn continuity on this offensive line for the first time in like a decade.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think as we move to the other side of the ball, there's always guys in the preseason who stand out. Kubis was one of them. They put on good tape, and the Giants don't want to, those are the guys they want to develop. Same thing happened. I know he's on the practice squad, but Timmy Horn, great preseason, and obviously he's on the squad now, but that's something they're going to develop too. Once they're on the practice squad, they're still part of the team, and they could be called up at any point, by the way, based on the injury situation that could happen at any point. Moving to defense, though, are you at all surprised by, let's start with two things. One, the bigger thing on people's minds, what happened at cornerback, and there was no real claims there. There was no real movement there. And then two, and you can go one by one, and we can talk about them each individually, just the fact that they kept a lot of these injured linebackers on the roster.
Yeah, I guess their injuries aren't serious. We'll start with the linebackers. I'm glad they kept Deontay Johnson. I think he's another player similar to Kubis who has some upside, right? And you want to hit on these UDFAs, especially if you're freaking missing on your first round picks, which is an abomination. So keeping a player like Deontay Johnson doesn't surprise me. It was week to week, like 2.5 weeks ago. So hopefully he should be getting healthy soon. And the only other player I can locate in the linebacker position that falls into the category you were referring to is Carter Coughlin, but he came back healthy. He just missed basically all of camp. And he's going to be a special teams ace for this team. I think if the Giants like somebody else who is cut by another team, Carter Coughlin might be one of the first players that they let go, and he'll probably pass through waivers, and then he'll probably get stashed on the Giants practice squad. So I think that can happen realistically. But from a special teams standpoint, I get keeping Carter Coughlin, and he can play linebacker in a pinch, and you have a couple players at that position group who are ailing or just returning from injury. I also don't know how certain Micah McFadden's starting role is on this defense. I think it is, but I wouldn't like, that's one position group is like, hey, name a starter from last year's defense that won't be starting by week 5. Like Micah McFadden's name is one of the first ones because he missed a lot of training camp, right? He was there, but he wasn't playing a lot of the snaps. He missed out on a lot of reps in Shane Bowen's defense. And I just don't know if that's going to hurt his development in this system. I like his skill set. Like he needs to clean up his missed tackles as well. But I think it's a fair question to ponder, especially with the other players the Giants have at this position group.
And then corner, are you surprised the Giants didn't make any moves there and didn't try to go after any of these guys who were cut?
Well, Caleb Farley, if you wanted to make that claim on him, you would have had to eat $2.5 million because of the first round pick. So it's a lot to eat right now. And all the back issues that he has. I'm not going to say I'm not surprised. I don't think they're done though yet. I think they're going to go after a cornerback eventually. We'll have to wait and see exactly what's going to happen, but there's still a week or so until the season starts. So I would say I wouldn't be shocked if something happens in the coming days.
Yeah, because they cut Trey Herndon. That was a player we initially predicted on the roster. I think just from a depth standpoint and because he's had experience in the NFL, maybe in their minds, they see that as this thing unfolds, there will be somebody with more experience than Herndon who they have better higher grade on, and they'll go that direction. I'm not exactly sure. Just one cut I saw that was interesting because I remember us studying him in the draft. Lewis Sign, the safety, he's not a corner, but just so shocking to me that he got cut. I haven't followed his story at all. I really thought he had a shot. Like I didn't know. I'm surprised. Like maybe I was helmet scouting. That's what Sai said. He's like, everybody's guilty at one time or another of sometimes helmet scouting, but I don't know. I didn't feel like that watching him play.
He had a devastating knee injury his rookie season.
I guess that's just he never got recovered his athleticism.
He got claimed too. He's on the Jets.
Yeah, I'm just surprising that I shouldn't say didn't get claimed or just that he got cut is what I meant. But yeah, maybe he's just not the same athlete after the injury. That's going to happen sometimes. But I did see that tweet by Sai, and it stood out to me of all the cuts made. Let's see what else we got here. Benton Whitley, a player. Is it Whitley or Whitley?
Whitley.
Benton Whitley, a player who, again, had a really good camp, especially a really good preseason, especially a really good training camp. The Giants just felt like they couldn't let him go. And I thought that was really interesting. Maybe some people have speculated that means they'll consider moving Azeez Ojulari for a corner if a deal that makes sense for those two types can be swapped. I'm not so sure it's that. I think the Giants just feel like this is somebody who they can develop at the edge position.
Yeah, you want depth at the edge position. And who the hell did the Giants have behind the top 3 right now? And I'm not opposed to sending Azeez Ojulari somewhere else. And you guys know, listeners of this podcast, I've been a big fan of Azeez Ojulari dating back to his time at Georgia. This is his final year on his deal. I don't know if he's going to get re-signed by Joe Schoen. And if you can get a cornerback who can help you this season and possibly push Cordell Flott and Nick McLeod for starting role, I think you pull the trigger on that. What would you say about that?
If it makes sense, you pull the trigger. I'm very skeptical of corners that are being traded in the NFL. I think corner, again, I've said this before, I stand by. It's a very difficult position. The bar is very high. If you don't jump over that bar, Nick, I think you're just like any other, essentially. Like, I don't find too much like that. The guys who can't make it, can't cut it, like cannot win on an island. There's too many of them, and I don't want to just trade for another one of them and be like, oh, well, there we go. But if you find someone who you believe can play, like a Fabian Moreau, like was for the Giants a few years ago, and it doesn't even have to be the same age range as Ojulari, that's different. Like you have that next level, works in your system. It has to be that type of situation, obviously. But I think I'd rather keep Ojulari because I still think there's a little bit of juice left in him. But people are skeptical about that.
No, I think there's juice. I think there's definitely juice. I think this defense actually can fit him from passing perspective. The run game is something that I've been skeptical about for a while. And you know what? Back at Georgia, he actually was a pretty damn physical run defender, but it was exposed early. Remember against Denver in his rookie season? Yep. They just ran the football right at him. And it was just like, oh God, Azeez, what's going on here? And yeah, it was rough.
Daniel Hackett, I think, right? Wasn't he the coach?
I think he was. Yeah, back with Teddy Bridgewater, and Jerry Jeudy ended up breaking his shin or whatever in that game.
Oh yeah, that was crazy. I forgot about that game. I think the Giants were up and then lost in the fourth quarter at home.
The Giants did lose, yes.
Yeah, brutal.
Of course.
Can't afford to lose this first game to Minnesota. They got to find a way to win this game. And that just reminds me of that kind of game. But I did think one other thing was interesting. The fact that they did move Kendre Miller to the practice squad tells me that, we've had some good reports early, but I think we're going to get a pretty much fully healthy, ready to go Tyrone Tracy for week 1, which is exciting because I think it's possible he's just immediately the RB2 for this team.
You call him Kendre Miller?
Oh, not Kendre Miller. Dante Miller.
Have you heard how Dennis Allen,
it's
Kendre
bad.
Miller is a running back on the Saints. He was drafted out of TCU, I think in like the 3rd or 4th round 2 years ago. And head coach Dennis Allen, I was listening to him talk about it. Dude, that guy's a prick.
He is a prick. And he's like said it twice about Kendre. It's like, really, I mean, the guy's been injured. Like, that's not his fault. You think he wants to be injured? Like, come on, dude. Like, and you want to just, I hate when coaches talk about it because like, oh, do you want him to just rush back on the field, re-injure himself and then be in the same spot? Or do you want him to just listen to the doctors and when he can play, he can play? Like,
he was injured at TCU as well.
He was injured a lot at TCU.
Yeah.
And it's part of why his draft stock fell because he had great tape when he was healthy. Obviously, it's been disappointing so far in 2 years for him. But yeah, I think that's a good reason why they might have moved Dante Miller to the practice squad. And I'm excited to see Tracy week 1. That's like one of the players I'm most excited to see for the Giants. I
agree, man. Tyrone Tracy Jr., he could factor in early on 3rd down. And this guy makes so many people miss.
Early downs too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Even I know it was preseason. I think he made like 4 or 5 players miss in that first preseason game.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just, that was all throughout his tape in college. And I think he could be an asset as a pass catcher.
We could see immediate roles for 3 players in the offense: Neighbors, Tracy, and even Theo Johnson, like, which is pretty amazing in year 1. I mean, we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, but let's hope that it goes in that direction because I think all are talented players. Yeah,
Neighbors, the offense is going to be just all around. He's the fulcrum of the New York Giants offense.
He has to be. Yeah. What else would you build this offense around? Like, it's the obvious choice for the focal point of the offense. Any other thoughts on the 53-man roster or things that stood out to you?
No, I don't think it's done quite yet, but there was nothing too surprising. Little things like Jakob Johnson, Miles, but like when you really think about it, it makes sense. They're going to make the practice squad, and then you can elevate them. You can elevate 2 players every game. If you elevate them, I think 2 games in a row, then you have to activate them to your roster. But the Giants are going to pick and choose when they elevate certain players here, depending on what's happening with their injuries, who they're playing, all of that. And I think you'll see Jakob Johnson this season, and maybe you'll see Isaiah Hodgins if something happens to one of the wide receivers. But at least you have that option there if somebody doesn't claim him before the Giants decide to activate him. If the Giants suffer injuries, knocking on wood, hopefully they do not.
I was a little surprised by how many offensive linemen they kept, Nick, but personally, I'm for it. After what happened last year with the offensive line, I'll just put it over everything. I'll put the development at a player like Kubas, who they believe could potentially be a long-term starter. I actually honestly believe they do see that. And that doesn't mean like a high-end guy or somebody they're going to like find the greatest guy ever, but somebody who they believe could potentially start for them down the line. I'll put that over a special teams guy or even over some of these other developmental players, to be completely honest, because I believe that right now this team should be half in, half out on, are we playing for now or are we playing for the future? To be completely honest, they have been the 4th least winning team since Daniel Jones got here. They have the 4th worst record in the NFL since Jones got here. It is not all about what they have now. A lot of this has to be development about the future. And offensive line is first and foremost right now, at least in my opinion, given what's on the current roster. Off season, we can talk about other things. What should be the first priority? Right now, to me, it's development of the offensive line.
Yeah, and you have 10 guys there now. And you look at a lot of them, like Austin Schlottman and possibly Aaron Stinney are the only ones where you're like, how long are they going to be here?
True.
Like Josh Azudu, I guess you could throw Josh Azudu in that too, but he's a draft pick, a 3rd round pick by this regime. So if he can develop a little bit, maybe, but like that's kind of been a disaster, unfortunately.
It's just crazy that they view him as a tackle to me, but we'll see what happens. I think maybe they think there's like a click moment and a jump, and it may start to look really different if he can start to get more reps. It's going to be tough though, because he's not going to get any reps from this point on.
I think it's his feet, man, that they really like as tackle. Yeah. But like he doesn't have a great anchor when he is taking on guys from these wide angles. It's similar to Evan Neal. Like Evan Neal doesn't have the confidence to really know where he needs to be. So he's not necessarily anchored down in the dirt, and people can just get under him so easily because he's so damn tall and so damn big. And his anchor just freaking concedes and it compresses the pocket. And it's a big struggle when you are going up against wide rushers for both Neal and Azudu. Whereas Jermaine Illuminor and Andrew Thomas, they can take that, resync their hips, and just kind of put their feet in the ground, walk back a little bit. And then next thing you know, the edge rusher's center of gravity is risen up because those guys have that type of strength to anchor themselves down. But with both Neal and Azudu, it just doesn't seem to be there, specifically when you have somebody coming from that wide angle. That's why the Evan Neal at guard thing at least piques my interest, because people are like, well, how is he going to have an anchor from the guard? It's like you're face up with somebody when you're playing guard. You're not really dealing with many people from an angle unless they're twisting or something like that, right? It's different than when you are out on an island as an offensive tackle. So I don't really see Evan Neal, Dan, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when he is facing a 5 technique, when he's facing a 4 technique, get bullied and have his anchor exposed when there is a bull rush against him, even when they win the pad level battle, which they do often because of Evan Neal's size and his high hat. But it's always when it's coming from an angle and that edge rusher is threatening with speed around the edge and then says, okay, I'm not going to go with speed. I'm going to run right through your chest. And that's where Evan Neal struggles. That's going to be significantly mitigated on the inside.
That's a great point. I wonder if the Giants see it. I know you see it, Nick, and I just wonder if they see it or where their minds are at with regards to those two players. It's very interesting. Neal and Azudu, both selected in the same class, both selected with really high draft picks. I mean, the Giants used 2 top 64 picks on these dudes. It's unbelievable to think about that they're going into the year as bench players after being top 64 picks. One was 7th overall. And who knows if they're even part of the future at this point, which is just, it sucks because you don't get those picks back. You don't get do-overs. You don't get to try again, and nothing after it is worth it. Free agency is only a supplemental place. Like, things have to turn around fast. They have to start hitting on these picks immediately, starting this year.
I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to enter a parallel universe or go through some elaborate labyrinth just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. Turns out, it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. It's easy to switch to. The website has a good interface. I have a couple buddies who have recommended this to me. They speak highly of Mint Mobile. Get started, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That is 3 Bs. There you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. Plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/BBB. That's mintmobile.com/BBB. 3 Bs, triple B. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/BBB. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
You ever feel sluggish or out of focus? Are you stressed? Has your digestive system caused discomfort or flatulence like a certain co-host on this podcast during a live stream? If so, you should check out AG1. When I started drinking AG1 daily, I could feel a real difference in my daily health. I had more energy, I was better off at the gym, and I could focus on my work in a much more efficient manner. That's because AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that supports your body's universal needs like gut optimization, stress management, and immune support. Since 2010, AG1 has led the future of foundational nutrition, continuously refining their formula to create a smarter, better way to elevate your baseline health. Not only did I replace my multivitamin with AG1, but I love that every scoop also includes prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support. I recommend AG1 to all my family and friends because AG1 has a team of doctors and scientists that formulate around the latest science and maintains high quality standards within the industry. Even my friends have started drinking AG1, and they always tell me how energetic they feel and how it's helped them out at the gym, and also it's helped them manage their stress levels. That's why we're happy to have AG1 as our partner. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs when you first subscribe. Go to drinkag1.com/banter. That's drinkag1.com/banter to check it out. Our mental and physical well-being is of the utmost importance. Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all need to take that very seriously. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Big Blue Banter podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New York, New Jersey, Arizona, if you will, or hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/banter to learn more and find a center near you. That's UNIFYD healing.com/banter. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment. And before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, include EE System.
And don't do this, guys. Don't go to the 2022 draft on Wikipedia and just start looking at some of the players selected after 7.
No,
because
you
if
don't
you
wanna see
do,
that.
you're going to need to pour yourself a nice glass of whiskey and just say, damn it.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see that.
No, you don't want to see that.
But this leads me into what we can wrap up with. And again, this is our initial reaction to the 53-man roster. Tomorrow, we're going to come at you with more content. Depending on if it's interesting, Joe Shane is set to speak at 5:25 today. We're recording before that. If it's interesting, we'll work that in. Sometimes he just gives these nothing burgers, but we'll see what he has to say. And I'm sure that we'll get something out of it. So we'll add that in. Want to get in some fun forward-looking stuff too as well, like bold predictions, record predictions as well. So it's going to start to be a page turner. And obviously, we'll react to any news. Like if there's any claims or anything that happens for the roster between now and then time of recording. But I do want to end on this because he kind of transitioned a little bit into Joe Shane and, these draft picks that haven't worked out. And he kind of had this recent article come out with Tyler Dunne, who seems to get a lot of good scoops on the Giants. He had Daniel Jones earlier this offseason, which is rare. And Joe Shane kind of discussed his vision for the franchise. And he feels like, it's a 3-year process. And it's been and according to him, the team is really starting to take the personality he wants. Shane said, our first draft class is going into their 3rd year, and they can carry the torch and show the young players, hey, this is how we're going to do things. This is what we want to be about. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. Those words all sound good and well to me, Nick, but I heard that exact thing from Dave Gettleman. It doesn't happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time. And he mentions, Joe Shane, our first draft class is going into their 3rd year. They're really going to have to carry the torch. Well, we just went over how Josh Azudu and Evan Neal might not even play this season. Legitimately might not play a snap.
Dan, we have Cordell Flott, though. No.
And Cordell Flott also might not be able to play. So I don't really understand what he's saying.
Flott will be healthy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he'll be healthy, but will he be able to be an impact player?
Exactly.
And this is when I start to hear this quite frankly, BS. And over the years, I've been able, just like every other fan, I've fallen for the fluff. Because as a fan, it's really difficult not to fall for the fluff. It sounds really good. What he just said there sounds great. Yeah, our 3rd-year guys, our personality, what we want to be, this and that. But personality and what we want to be is not worth enough. It's just not. It's been what Dave Gettleman said. It's what every regime has said. And at some point, the personality can't be everything. It can't be about that. It has to be about the talent and what they're producing on the field. And so I just didn't like that. And it is what it is. He says what he says. He's not going to give away more information to this Tyler Dunne guy. But like I read that quote and it just went right over my head because I'm tired of taking that at anything more than face value because that's what I've been falling for. And we've had 10 years of incompetence. And the last 5 years with Jones, we've had the fourth worst record in the NFL. That's not Jones's fault. It's not Barkley's fault. It's not Shane's fault. It's not Gettleman's fault. It's a combination of all sorts of things. But enough of the we have the personality we want shit. It's got to be production on the field. That's how you win games. The personality and the locker room shit and the leadership is good. And it's part of all winning teams. But it's a baseline and it's not worth enough. Every team has leaders. Every team has a personality you built for that team, that GM built for that team. I need to start seeing production. We need to start seeing production. And we'll see how it happens because he's talking about the 22 class, Nick, and I'm searching for ways right now how that class is going to impact this year outside of Wandale and outside of Kayvon.
Yeah, that's what it is, man.
And Dane.
I hope Dane
Bellinger.
And Micah.
And Micah. There are guys. There are late guys that can help this team. But there are also guys that were taken early. Flott, Azudu, and Neal. And those are massive question marks right now.
Yeah, and the 7th overall, like missing on a 7th overall pick is just absolutely devastating. And hitting on a third, like a day 3 pick, it feels great, right? Like that's like a gem.
But it's a contributor. It's nothing really.
Yeah,
the real stuff are the guys who win football games for you, not the you do okay in your role guys.
Dude, we were expecting to get another Andrew Thomas.
Right, dude. We were expecting to have Thomas and a stud like him back for the next 10 to 15 years.
After having Bobby Hart and Eric Flowers starting for the Giants like 4 years previous, we thought we were in a freaking football heaven then. That's what we thought. And we were fooled.
But you know what? Maybe Illuminor can just be the dude for the next 5 years. And they resign him. And no, it's not bad because then it's fine. They'll move on and it is what it is. But I'm just tired of hearing that type of talk. It's just, it goes in one. It should start going in one ear, out the other for me. It will for me. And for you guys can make your decision if you want to buy into the fluff. But the fluff I'm done with the fluff at this point, Nick.
One more thing. I know we might have a couple more things from Tyler Dunne's article we want to talk about, but we never acknowledged the Giants captains. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Only 5 captains this year, and it is quarterback Daniel Jones, offensive lineman Andrew Thomas, defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence, middle linebacker Bobby Okereke, and long snapper Casey Kreider for the special team. So those are our captains for the 2024 season.
I think those are great picks personally. Again, this is what Daniel Jones's best trade is. This is what he offers. He's the first one in the building, the last one out. He works hardest. He puts his body on the line for the team. And he is everyone's favorite player on the team. That's what he offers. He also can throw a good dig route. That's his best, that's his best throw. And he can run. Like this is what he's offered on a consistent basis thus far in his career. So he deserves to be the captain. And we're hoping that he can get better at all the other things about playing quarterback. But it's good. He deserves captain. I'm happy. If you're a team that has a quarterback that's not the captain, I kind of think that's weird. And some teams have that. I always find that weird when the quarterback's not the captain. Because I don't know how you win with that situation or how you expect to win. So I'm happy with those decisions. What about you?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm trying to think of anybody who was passed over. And there's really no one that jumps out, right? A lot of the players who we're relying on are new to the Giants, or they're very young and developing type of players. And captains from last season, like Saquon and X-Man, they're not here anymore. Dory's not here anymore, right? Julian Love obviously isn't.
The hell is going on with Adoree Jackson?
I don't know, man. He's probably just gonna sign somewhere after week 1. He's gonna just feel it out.
Like
he's
why
still
go through
he's
training
28,
camp?
isn't he?
He's young. Still young. I just don't understand why you would go through free. I understand why you wouldn't go through training camp. Like that seems like if I'm a vet at this stage of my career, I'd be like, F that. I'm not going to go through training camp. But like now's the time to sign. I'm surprised he hasn't signed yet. That's all I'm confused about.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, hopefully he's still in football shape though, too. There's that.
Right. That's the thing. Like Dalvin Cook obviously waited out training camp and then signed with the Cowboys. So it's
do you imagine how tilted would you be if Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook from 2020?
I know.
And he's just hitting holes behind that really good offensive line. He looks good again. It's just where's the Jets Dalvin Cook? What the hell?
I know. It's crazy. I doubt that'll happen for the Cowboys, but it would be really tilting if it did.
I think Rico Dowdle is that running back.
He's the best guy there, but I don't know what kind of role he's going to have as far as that goes for fantasy. We're going to end with this wild quote from this Tyler Dunne article, and you can check it out on, I believe, Go Long. Let me find it because I want to properly credit him. GoLongTD.com. That's GoLongTD.com. I can't read the entire article. I've read some of it. You need to subscribe to read it. But there is one quote in it that was unbelievable that I read in it, Nick, and it's just shocking to believe it. So they were talking about, so he got quotes from the Giants scouts, Nick. I'm talking about life as a Giant scout under Joe Sheen as general manager. He's touting it. He loves it. This Giant scout. This is obviously an anonymous scout. He loves it. He's touting it. Talking about the differences, how great it is. He says, this isn't the norm. This is the scout speaking. And most certainly, or no, this is Tyler speaking. Sorry. This isn't the norm. Most certainly wasn't life for a scout under the previous general manager. One of the Giants' longtime scouts still fumes over his former boss, Dave Gettleman, and how he ran the show. And this is from the scout, Nick. This is a wild quote. I don't know Dave's heart, the scout said. I don't know why he did what he did. I just wished I'd have punched him right in the fucking mouth. That's what I wished I had done. The Giant scout said this to Tyler Dunne. Like, how dysfunctional of a freaking regime were you as Gettleman to have scouts who want to punch you in the face and wish they had? That's insanity to me. I hope John Mara sees that, and I hope John Mara realizes I can't make this mistake again and keep this guy for 4 years when everyone knew he was horrible. And there we go. I lost my mind on Dave Gettleman.
Dan with the profanity-laced comments about Dave Gettleman. You know what's funny? There are some new scouts there. You could probably look through the Giant scouts and be able to deduce who had this type of vitriol for Dave Gettleman. I'm sure if Gettleman is paying attention somewhere on his desk with his Jergens to the side, he can probably understand or know who exactly has this type of animosity towards him.
I have that kind of animosity towards him, that's for sure. And so does this long-term scout. I have animosity toward the fans who are like, no, you need to give him more time, when he was doing so many horrific process things. But I apologize to you, and I apologize to the fans and everybody who just had to listen to that profanity-laced tirade. I blame it on it's been a rough week at work, and it's been a lot of shit going on, and I've been stressed. So I was stressed all day. I read that article, and then I got pissed off because I don't understand why a scout can have that kind of vitriol toward a former GM, and that guy gets 4 years to take down a roster and leaves us with Kadarius Toney at the end, who just got cut by the Chiefs. Nobody wants him, and everyone's like, oh, help, someone will claim him for his talent. Nobody's going to put that guy back in their locker room right now, like, for the talent, for this guy who can't stay on the field and isn't really a talent. Like, this dude drafted him at 21 overall, like, idiotically, after one interview at the Combine. Didn't even bring him in for a pre-draft visit. This is ridiculous shit that we have to deal with. That's hurting the roster now. You can say it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. The 2021 draft pick. He should be a core player of the roster right now. And that's the bottom line. And I'm back to being angry. I got to calm down. Someone said my first rant would come after week 1. Well, it came in the preseason because anytime I think about Dave Gettleman, I can't stand this shit, man.
Every time you think about Dave Gettleman, you come. That's what I just heard.
And I wish that it were as easy as he's not here anymore. He doesn't affect the roster. But of course he does. A 2021 first round pick should be a core player for this team right now. And I'm getting mad just thinking about that comment of, don't talk about him. He's gone. He doesn't affect the team anymore. Jesus Christ.
Well, Dan, don't worry. We got a first round pick for that trade down.
What? Darren Waller?
No. Oh, come on, man. How did you not get that? Evan Neal was the 7th overall pick we got in that trade.
Forgot. We got Evan Neal out of it.
That was what we got from that. That was the consolation prize. And that's not working out.
No, we got out of that. We got the final deal we got out of this. Kadarius Toney turned to Darren Waller and Evan Neal.
It's okay. It's not like there were any good players drafted after where the Giants trade down from. No one. No one.
Or after Kadarius Toney, like Christian Darrisaw. Can you imagine him on the roster right now? Picked one pick after Kadarius Toney. The Toney pick was one of the stupidest picks of all time. I'm going to straight up say that. They didn't vet him. He was a terrible off-field personality. He had injury history at Florida, and he wasn't even viewed by scouts as a value pick at the time. Everyone thought that was a reach. It's so idiotic, and it's so unbelievable.
Except for Urban Meyer.
He's the one who's like, oh, I would have taken him if the Giants didn't take him. Urban Meyer, the single worst head coach hire in the last decade. Great company to be with. Dave Gettleman. Oh, yeah, I call him and he's probably a good person. Maybe. No, he probably is. I take that back. He's probably a nice guy. But terrible general manager who's still hurting the team today because a 2021 first-round pick should be a core captain of this team right now. And we just get nothing out of that. I've repeated that 4 times. That's how you know I'm tilted. That's how you know the rant is on. I apologize again. It's been stressful, and I had to take it out somewhere. Unfortunately, I took it out on the podcast today.
Beautiful. I can't wait to see the comments on this one.
I just hope the Giants can get past this Gettleman era and we don't even talk about it or think about it anymore. You know, the easiest way, just start winning consistently. Okay. That's as easy as that. No one will mention Gettleman anymore at that point. But yeah. All right. All right. For those who made it through this rant, have a great rest of your week or day, because we'll talk to you tomorrow. Keep it locked and loaded. Good content coming. We're going to preview the season, which is more fun in my mind. So I can't wait to do that. Talk bowl predictions, make our record predictions. Nick, we did great with our record prediction 2022. Horrible with our record prediction last year. So I'm calling that 1 for 1. Let's see if we can go 2 for 1.
I don't know if it was horrible. Like we were three games off.
Okay, I guess. Wait, we said 9, or I thought we said 10.
I said 9. You said 10.
I said 10. Okay.
I'm giving us a look, and this might be big-headed of me, might be conceited of me, but I'm giving us more credit for 2022 than for our miscalculation with 2023, because we were one of the only podcasts, or one of the only people who covered the Giants professionally that deviated. Everybody was saying like 4 wins, 5 wins. We said 9 wins, 8 wins. I think is
in 2022 you're talking
about. 2022.
Yeah. And everyone was predicting they would win 10 or 9 last year.
Last year, everybody was saying 9 or 10, and we were like 8, 9, 10. Yes, that's what we thought, but we acknowledged how tough the schedule was. Everything fell apart. And they still won 6, which is really kind of crazy, to be honest, because they were in no position to win 6. They should have won like 2 or 3 games. Somehow they won freaking 6, played themselves out of the Drake Mace sweepstakes. It's only going to work against the Giants.
Why'd you mention that right now? Why'd you mention that right now? I was just calmed down, Nick. I was just taking a deep breath. I was just happier. And now I'm stressed again. No, I'm kidding.
Remember watching Drake May tape? Remember how fun that was?
No, I don't want to go back to that. Neighbors is awesome. Okay. We wouldn't have had Neighbors then. At least we have that. I'm so excited about having 10 years of Neighbors, or maybe more. Hopefully it doesn't turn the OBJ route where he gets sick of how bad the situation is around him. So just get him the football. Just force the ball to this guy and he'll do the rest himself. All right. Keep it locked and loaded. Please like, rate, subscribe, do all those things we've asked in the past. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.